Hello, welcome to this week's How's the Market, Pensacola. Well, the market's crazy. Interest rates are rising. Buyers are nowhere to be found, and we're going to collapse. First of all, I want to start the show off by saying thanks to everyone who reached out to me the last couple of weeks. If you follow the show, you know that pretty much I didn't shoot an episode in the third quarter of this year. I had set some goals and things I needed to accomplish personally, and normally when you add stuff onto your list of things to do, sometimes you have to deduct some things in order to have time to do them. So this was one of the things that I had to just deduct. I stepped back a little bit, took care of some personal items, got them all knocked out, and now we're back and in a groove. But I know that I got a lot of people reaching out going, hey, where's the show? Hey, I had customers say that they've been watching me for a while, plan on buying a house next year, and was like almost jonesing for a show. So thank you for everyone who actually reached out. I am fine. I did not go in the hospital. I'm not afraid of the market that's right now. I heard a lot of speculations. It's funny when you start doing this for a couple of years. I've been doing this show now for 3 years. And when you don't do it, people just start speculating. Boy, do they speculate. Kind of like this market. There's a segue for you. Kind of like this market. There's a lot of people speculating. Like on the top of the show right now, I just said, hey, interest rates are through the roof. Buyers have pulled back. Prices are going to collapse, right? I see that left and right. I see that a lot in the Journal. The Wall Street Journal is talking about prices coming down in certain marketplaces. They always make that caveat, in certain marketplaces. And they try and broaden it to the whole thing. It's just because, fear leads, especially when it comes to news stories. So people are asking me, hey, what's going on? Or is now still a good time to sell? Is now a good time to buy? I'm going to answer it a couple of ways, but I'm going to answer it at the end of the show. Because first, I want to give you some premises of what we're looking at inventory-wise before I go telling you answers to that question. So let's do like we normally do. Get over to our two counties, and then I will answer those two very important questions. Let's go. All right, if you hadn't watched the show, you don't know that I always start with this slide right here. It says if we have between 6 and 7 months worth of inventory, we have what's called a neutral market. Anything greater than 7 months considered a buyer's market, anything less than 6 months considered a seller's market. What the slide doesn't say, anything greater than 9 months, hyper buyer's market. Anything less than 3 months, hyper seller's market. I've been saying that for 3 years now. Right? Those are the differences. Those are the criteria. So everybody's looking, where's the hyper buyers? Where's the hyper buyers? Where's the hyper buyers? Well, let's look at our two counties, shall we? All right, I'm going to start off in Escambia County. Well, look at here. I don't even see a buyer's market or a neutral market at all. If you're new to the show, you haven't seen the show yet, on the left-hand side over here is where the price points are for listings. On the right is your month's inventory. That's why this slide makes more sense now. So I look at how the month's inventory per price point, I break them down. There's not even a yellow on here, and if you notice down here, the yellow would be a neutral market. So 6 months inventory would be a yellow on here. And then we would get green and blue if we got a buyer's market or a hyper buyer's market. This is all still a seller's market in Escambia County. 897 properties active. And just so you know, when I was doing this in 2012, that was more like 8,000 or 9,000 properties active. So there's a big difference, okay? We're still under 1,000 properties active. Looks like all the way up to 500,000. Still a hyper seller's market. Are we seeing more inventory than when I did it at the end of the second quarter 2022? Yeah, sure, we are. There's nothing under a month's inventory. But you got to get up to 500,000 plus to get over 3 months. So all of that is still a hyper seller's market. Now, are buyers a little more picky? Are we still doing even though it's a hyper seller's market, Are we still doing the paying over appraised pricing? No. Are they still going to look at negotiations for inspections? Yes. Are they starting to ask for concessions again? Yes. Are the sellers still in control? For the most part. Has the pendulum swung a little towards the buyers? Yes, but if you look at the raw data says the sellers are still in control because it's still a hyper seller's market all the way up to 500,000. And even over 500,000, it looks like it's just out of a hyper sellers and into a seller's market. It looks like the most inventory falls in that pocket of 550,000 to 600,000. We got 46 active properties there, 4.7 months. So still a seller's market, but not a hyper seller's market. So you're going to have to differentiate your property if you come on in that price point. So does my marketing change? If you and I talk and I think your property is worth $570,000, does my marketing change here versus $470,000 here? Absolutely. Absolutely it does, because we're out of the hyper sellers and into a seller. So I need to attract a different clientele. I need to talk with people differently. And the seller needs to be open to negotiations. Are we going to get 100% no contingencies as is? I'm not going to ask you to repair anything. Just please, 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 please give me the house. No, you're not going to get that. Those days are behind us now as a seller. Now, you get a good property and you get it right on the marketing and right on the pricing. Can you still get good offers? Sure. But like I said, the pendulum swung a little bit towards the buyer's side. So that's Escambia County. Let's jump over to Santa Rosa County, see if there's anything different over there. Oh, look, there's not. Looks like $50,000 to $100,000 over here is 3.3 months worth inventory. So $50,000 to $100,000 is actually out of the hyper sellers and just into the seller's market. 668 active. If you go back and look at earlier this year, I want to say we were under 200 at one point. Excuse me. I want to say we were under 200. I know we were under 300. We may have been under 200. It does look like the 100,000 to 150,000 is 0.8 months. So it's the only one under a month's inventory. Nope, I was about to lie to you. Looks like 250,000 to 300,000 is under a month's inventory too. But basically the same as in Escambia County. You got to go all the way up to 450,000 to get out of a hyper seller's market and pretty much 600,000. Now I know I got 3.3 months worth of inventory here, 50 to 100,000. So technically under our definition, you've left hyper sellers and into sellers, but some of those need a lot of work. That's why the inventory's grown some. Talking about a lot of work, I'll tell you what, you got a lot of investors looking at the tragedy down in South Florida right now. So I think we're going to see some investors pull away from our area because there is people needing help and investors are there to help. There are some that are there to help. There are others that will try and take advantage of it. And those people, in my opinion, can have an Italian itch. But let me get back to this. So you're going to go all the way up to 600,000. And then the 600,000 to 650,000 is the most inventory at 5.1 months. Now I know, Shane, it says these are sellers, not hyper sellers. Yes, but it's right on the cusp. 3 months inventory is technically under our definition. That goes from red to orange. Hyper sellers to sellers. Those are on the cusp. Would I market anything different under 600,000? No. But 600,000 to 650, you better, because that's the closest price point in both our counties where you're getting to a neutral market. That's when you're going to have to start differentiating some more. All right, I've laughed. If you follow me on some of the social medias, I usually put up pictures that people put up in the MLS. I don't know why some of these pictures are in the MLS, but people get a little. So are you going to have to do things a little differently? Are professionals going to have to work with you in order to get your property sold? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So there is our Santa Rosa County. Pretty much everything is a hyper sellers, except that one little pocket. And then your luxury at 3.5 months. So is it a good time to sell and is it a good time to buy? Here's the question I've been asking a bunch of buyers is people start to consider, hey, should I buy a property right now? But I'm looking at the market, so I'm kind of scared. Okay, well, if you know me and you followed me, then I'm going to look at data because the emotional side of this game does dictate a lot. But let's just go logical for a minute. And my wife is actually a therapist, so sometimes we battle because she's very much all about people's emotions because, well, that's what she does. right? And I'm all about very logical because that's what I do. But, you have to kind of come together. So let's look at the logic. Interest rates. Are interest rates drastically different now than the start of the year? Sure. We were in the fours. Now we're in the sevens. Do we think they're going to continue to rise? Probably. Now the rapid rise that is probably behind us. It's probably going to slow up some. But I was actually reading the journal this morning and they were talking about the Fed still, because the labor market cooled off some, but not quite enough. So they're still going to stay aggressive. That's why we're seeing the stock market fall some more, is because the Fed has not indicated when they're going to slow up on these aggressive moves to slow inflation. Okay, and a lot of that is intertwined. This is not a long enough show for me to actually explain all that. So just trust me, a lot of that's intertwined. So since the Fed's not going to slow it up, interest rates are going to continue to rise. But that rapid should be behind us. Do I think we'll see eights? Probably. Probably. Do I think we'll hang out in the sevens and the high sixes? Yes. Are there VA assumable loans out there that we're probably going to wind up coming back into play? Probably. What does that mean? Without going into too much detail, most VA loans, not all, and they're starting to limit those anyways, are what they call assumable loans. Now, what is an assumable loan is? Let's say I owe $300,000 on my property as a veteran, and I've been paying on it for 7 years, right? You come in as a veteran. You have to be a veteran to do this. You come in and you sold your house at your last duty station and you got $200,000 cash that you had wanted to put down. Well, if I'm selling you the property at $500,000 but I owe $300,000, then there may be a possibility for you to assume my loan. Not only are you getting the $300,000 at a much lower interest rate in the threes, but you're also getting 6-7 years worth of payments. They're already calculated in. So you pay me the $200,000 difference in cash from the house you sold wherever you came from, right? And then you assume my mortgage. Do I think some of that's going to start to come back into the marketplace? I do. If you got an option of doing a $300,000 loan at 7.5% or an option of doing it at 3.5%, if you can assume somebody else's loan, does that take a little time? Sure. Does the seller need to pay attention? Because sometimes if you assume a loan, the seller's not off the hook. So if you don't make the payment, then the lender can come back to that original one. And if I'm representing the seller and that's a caveat in the assumption, then I'm going to recommend you don't do it. Because I don't mind being responsible for payments I'm in charge of. But for somebody else, I don't plan on doing that at all. So I think we'll have some assumable loans coming into play. Do I think that the rates, just in conventional, all of them are going to continue to rise? Sure, just slower. Now here's the next question though. Do we think property values are going to continue to rise in our area? All right, forget the macro, because if you read the macro, you have to bring it back down to the micro. I've seen all the newscasts out there, and I'm paying attention, and as I look back down to our area, I just showed you the numbers. We still do not have enough inventory for prices to come down. Well, Shana, we're going to see a big foreclosure crisis like we saw in 2008. There's nothing pointing to that. Nothing. All right, what are those 2008 numbers? They would have required us to owe a lot more. If you look at the average rates, even if you go back macro, the average home only has a 55 to 60% loan to value. So if they owe, if it's a $100,000 house, they only owe 60 grand. So it's $40,000 worth of equity. Imagine if it's a $500,000 house, they only owe 300 grand. That was $200,000 worth of equity. Why in the world would someone let that go back to the bank as a foreclosure? It makes no sense. Do I think we're going to start to see some foreclosures increase? Sure. There's going to be some people that didn't know what they were doing, did the forbearance out of COVID. All of that came out and they don't know their options. They just throw their hands up. Or the last 3 foreclosures I saw hit the market in the last 72 hours were all what they call reverse mortgage foreclosures. The bank has to put it as a foreclosure because technically that's how they acquired title. But we all saw it coming. This is not a foreclosure like we saw in 2008, 2009. So do I think we're going to see a lot of foreclosures? Do I think we're going to see a lot of short sales? No. Will we have some? Sure. But if you look back and you actually study real estate, 2005, 2006, when things were booming, it was like the roaring 20s again, right? In real estate, we still had foreclosures. We still had HUD foreclosures. We still had VA foreclosures. We still had, and just so you know, HUD is also FHA loans. FHA is backed by Housing and Urban Development, so a HUD foreclosure could be an FHA loan. We had those foreclosures. It happened. It just did. So are we going to have some? Sure. Are we going to have massive ones? No. So everything that we're seeing pointing to an increase in value continuing. Is it going to be the rapid double digit we saw the last couple of years? No. Probably not. Probably not. Now, I can't say no forever because obviously there are things that could change drastically. But there's nothing pointing to a rapid double-digit appreciation. But if prices are going to continue to go up, as a buyer, is it a better time to lock that in now? All right, let me talk to the sellers for real quick before we end the show. Is it a good time to sell? Yeah, especially right now. Some of these numbers are depressed because of the time of year. We're creeping up on Halloween. All right, and fourth quarter is usually less people on the market. Why? Because they plan on spending the holidays in the home before they come back on the market. In our area, the spring buying season starts January. And if you look, the National Association of Realtors actually said the biggest day searched for real estate on the market is December 27th. I think Christmas is done and people are starting to think about New Year's and, hey, you know what, I'm going to buy a house this year. So there's a lot of it. That's actually the biggest day of real estate searched of the year. So I think it's a good time to sell, yeah, because the buyers that are out there are serious. All right, I've got a couple of listings right now, and the seller or the buyers that have come in have all been extremely serious. It's not a tire kicker. It's not a, oh my gosh, I got one that doesn't have, the whole place is fenced except one side, right? Because all the neighbors had put up a fence and he had put one section over on this side, right? But this side didn't have it. Well, they were complaining that it wasn't fully fenced. That's a $500, maybe $200 job, depending on what the cost of wood is. All right, that's really that big of a job, and this is a $600,000 house. If you're going to complain about that, that's a tire kicker. We don't see a lot of those during this time of year. Most people that are looking to buy seriously. Also, as we get closer for the next, I would say 6 weeks, 7 weeks, as we get closer to Thanksgiving, people are going to want to go under contract because you have to close by the end of December in order to claim homestead for next year. So that again is going to increase a little bit of buyer demand of people coming here. Plus it's, October 9th, 10th, something like that. When you may be watching it at a different time, but that's when I'm recording it. And so the new fiscal year has started, so some of our military is going to be moving back again because the new military fiscal year starts now. So a lot of that's going on. Okay, that's it. I know it's a little longer, but I hadn't been on for a couple of weeks. I do, again, appreciate everybody who reached out. Thank you for that. I'm fine. Everything's fine. But we need to get back on track here when it comes to this show. And the market. We need more inventory. The sellers are still kind of controlling things, but not necessarily as much as they were when Valentine's Day was around. All right, there's your numbers. Hopefully that helps you. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. I'm a man on a mission. My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and don't need no permission. I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth?